We have got a busy news morning in Kansas City and around the world. President Trump has just arrived in Switzerland for the World Economic Forum in Davos. It looks like they have just landed moments ago, and they are getting off the plane. So that is happening in real time. And then back here in Kansas City, well, everyone's buzzing about what you just heard from John Anthony on the news. And that is that we believe to be, and what has been reported as, the 4 teams that will be base camping in the Kansas City metro during the World Cup. And those 4 countries, Argentina, England, the Netherlands, and Algeria. Now, this means this is going to be the place that they train, they practice, they spend several weeks. Doesn't mean they're necessarily playing here. They will likely be playing all over the country, but they will be based out of here as they practice and prepare for the World Cup coming up this summer. So this news broke yesterday. First came from a guy who actually, I don't know him, but we follow each other on social media, and he had reached out wanting to get together as well. So I do have to do that, put it on my list of things to do here in 2026. Zach Molzer, he is the founder of Molzer Development right here in Kansas City. He was the first one to put something up about this yesterday on social media, saying Kansas City will host these 4 countries for the World Cup, and this is going to be their home base. And then it started to leak, and there started to be more reporting around this from some of the TV stations. But that also included some investigative journalism by our very own Mark Van Sickle. Let's bring him in and give him a round of applause. Take a bow there, Mark.
Thank you.
So what did your investigative journalism come to the conclusion of yesterday when this started to pop all over Kansas City?
Yeah, we've, talked to some people that are involved with the World Cup, and, these are off-the-record comments, so I won't say because they're not allowed to say at this point. So I use some of that information along with things that have been reported over the weekend with countries coming here, looking at different sites. And, yeah, I just kind of pieced it all together and talked to Harold Coons from Fox 4 and collaborate a little bit. And, yeah, it seems like everything is coming together for Kansas City getting 3 of the biggest teams in the world.
All right, so this is big time. Good job by you there, Mark. In between throwing together massive parlays, he's doing some investigative journalism on behalf of KCMO Talk Radio. I like it. So Kansas City was already set to host 6 World Cup matches. Now, those were already going to be a big deal, including a quarterfinal, right? But what this is really about, what the base camp is really about, is bringing people here who are going to practice, who are going to spend several weeks here, and whose fans are likely to follow them to these locations. So listen, I'm not sitting here as the biggest soccer fan in the world, okay? But I've heard of a guy who plays for Argentina whose name is Messi. I've heard of him. Yeah, I know most of us have. Probably the most popular soccer star on the planet. England, obviously, is England. That's a big deal.
Yeah, Premiership is one of the more popular leagues, so their players that will come over for England are going to be all superstars in their own right.
That's awesome. And then Netherlands, that's Mark's team. Mark's all in on, I don't want to say his home country, but his roots in Netherlands.
Historically, ancestrally, that's my country.
And then
all the Vans.
Is it fair to say Algeria is a distant 4th place in these 4 countries?
Yeah, and for picking each home base, it goes by ranking. So Argentina is ranked number 2 in the world right now, so they got their first pick. Then England, I believe, is ranked number 5. It came out yesterday, maybe number 4. And then Netherlands number 7, and then Algeria further down, closer to number 30, I think.
All right. Well, this is exciting news. Listen, the jokes we were making leading up to this is we were going to get a bunch of third world asshole countries and no one was going to care. Now, I never thought that was going to be true because the appeal of Kansas City is, one, obviously location, not having to have a 6-hour flight if you're in California to go to a game in New York. You're basically 2.5, 3 hours from anywhere. That's great. And then 2, just a quieter, easier pace for a month and a half to 2 months as you practice compared to some of the other larger cities and larger metros that are going to be having base camps for teams. So those were 2 very attractive things that I thought Kansas City always brought to the table for these teams. And clearly, they saw it that way as well. Now, what I don't want to hear happen from local leaders is overpromising. And that is a real potential here. The politicians, whether it's, your city politicians, Quentin Lucas, your governors, Laura Kelly, Mike Kehoe, who get these teams now, and it's not official, it's just being well reported around Kansas City. And it's like, oh, you just wait for the windfall. Oh, my gosh, you're going to have the best 2 months your business has ever had. That's how you end up like the lady who had and may still have, the shop inside of Crown Center. Remember that female clothing store inside of Crown Center? And she was screaming on local news about how during the NFL draft, I didn't get any more business. In fact, it hurt my business. Okay, ma'am, people are not flying to Kansas City or coming to the NFL draft to buy sundresses. I hate to break it to you.
Talk about a bombshell.
But that's not how it goes. So like anything else, there will be some businesses in some part of town that probably have a record-breaking couple of months. And there will be many businesses who see absolutely zero impact based on this World Cup and based on these teams announcing they're coming here for their base camps.
I think the shop at Crown Center, their only chance during the draft was if Dylan Mulvaney had come. Thanks for Mark. It reminded me of the name. That would have been the one shot to sell something.
Normalize the bulge. We are normalizing the bulge.
I didn't have a Dylan Mulvaney reference on the show this morning before 6:15, but hey, here we are. Good morning. We've got you going here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM and always streaming KCMOTalkRadio.com and on the KCMO Talk Radio app. I wanted to spend a couple of minutes on this as well up in the Northland. And we are going to be joined by the attorney of Jeffrey King coming up here at 7:05. Hang on one sec. Let me confirm I have that time. He's going to be here in the 7 o'clock hour. 8 o'clock hour. Sorry, 8:05 he's going to be here. Jeffrey King is the man accused of shooting his neighbor, Chris Wells, to death last Monday. And according to his attorney, Matthew Merriman, here in Kansas City, he told the Kansas City Star yesterday, it's very important for people to acknowledge and respect that Mr. King, at least according to the probable cause statement, that Mr. King was ambushed at his home. And the state of Missouri has very robust self-defense protection and is a stand-your-ground state. So this is going to be a fascinating test of Missouri's stand-your-ground law. Now, Chris Wells was a 41-year-old father of four right here in Kansas City who was fed up with this neighbor of his who was a menace to the entire neighborhood. There have been dozens of calls over years to 311 and KCPD, and city council knew about this guy and everything else. And then finally, Chris Wells, something happened, and he ends up getting into an altercation with this guy, Jeffrey King, last Monday morning, and he gets shot and killed. And now you have the attorney for Jeffrey King floating the possibility that the stand your ground law is going to be what he uses in the defense of Jeffrey King. Now, I was not there. I do not have all the details as to how this went down, but there are many people, I think, who are hearing this right now, many of you, and this is how I felt the second I heard this, who are hearing this right now and who support a robust stand your ground law, but also are very sympathetic to what Chris Wells is going through and what that Northland neighborhood has been through with this guy, Jeffrey King, and the allegations that have been thrown against him over the last several days that have tied into a guy who was just a menace to his community. But if the stand your ground law, which is very robust in Missouri, if that is the thing that potentially saves Jeffrey King from spending life in prison and potentially dealing with the death penalty, well, that is going to be a fascinating twist on this story if that's ultimately how it plays out. 913-408-7957. The attorney for Jeffrey King is going to join the show this morning at 8:05 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. We'll also have on Luke Doris, KCTV5 meteorologist at 7:05 with this monster storm coming our way here in the next couple of days. Next, President Trump had his first massive press conference of the year. And like everything, there was good and there was bad. We'll give you both sides of it next on KCMO. So President Trump has landed in Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. He's going to be speaking in an hour or two is what is scheduled for the President of the United States. Any of the highlights that come out of that, we will let you know about here on KCMO Talk Radio. Because you know and I know. I mean, that thing's going to run. Trump in Davos with some of the people around the globe that he can't stand. Oh, man, he's going to go off. He's going to make them sit there and basically listen to him for as long as he damn well pleases. That's what he's going to do, which is basically what he did yesterday. The president had his first full press briefing yesterday as he basically stood there alongside Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt and took over the press briefing. And it was covered wall to wall by every news station in the country. So Trump was basically using this as an opportunity to highlight what he perceives as obviously a lot of wins during his first term in office. But as it typically goes with Trump, there was good and then there was some not so good. And that can happen oftentimes in the span of about 90 seconds. That's the beauty of Trump, right? It's like, you know, he's doing his thing. You're getting pumped up. You're like, great point. No, what are you doing, man? Like, that's just how it goes sometimes. And that was my emotional roller coaster as I was watching this thing yesterday. It was highs and a lot of peaks. And, you know, there were a couple of valleys in there. That's just how it goes, right? So let's start with some good, and then we'll go to some not so good when it comes to the President of the United States. So this right here is something that people are ragging on him for. He was showing faces of illegal aliens who had been arrested by ICE. And he was showing their mugshots and their rap sheets. And people were like, Trump's going crazy. I mean, he's just standing there flipping pieces of paper. No, he was doing the work of the media. That's what he was doing.
I'm just looking at these charges. It's just pretty incredible. Many murders, many murders. People that murdered.
So that right there, if you haven't seen the clip, it's up on my X feed right now at Pete Mundo. Trump is standing there and he's flipping pieces of paper of some of the people that have been arrested so far in Minneapolis by ICE. And these are people with long rap sheets of drug charges and sexual abuse, and in some cases, obviously, as he alluded to there, murder. I still don't know how Trump sees without reading glasses at 79 years old. I'm still trying to figure that out. And you can kind of tell like he's got to hold the paper back a little bit. But heck, I mean, I do that at half his age. So I don't know. Either way, he's looking at these things and he's flashing who these people are. And if we had an honest media in this country, we wouldn't have to have the president stand up there and be like, here's who we're actually arresting. These are the people that the protesters are basically lobbying on behalf of. There's a lot that you can sit there and criticize Trump for. Arresting illegal immigrants who have committed heinous crimes in this country beyond how they got here, that ain't it. That's not the thing to double down against Trump on. And that was the point he was making yesterday as he was showing these people. These are the people that you are simping for. These are the individuals that in many cases you're trying to protect. And just own it. I mean, get up there and own it. If that's what you're going to do, then just own it. These are the individuals. These are the people who are infiltrating communities, including Kansas City, by the way, with things like fentanyl. These are the people who are out there committing crimes, oftentimes in some of the poor to lower income neighborhoods, whether it's in Kansas City or Minneapolis. They're not terrorizing million-dollar suburban neighborhoods. That's not what they're doing. Those are not the people at risk. Now, those are the people most triggered by all this because they're the biggest virtue signalers out there, but they're not the ones who get impacted by this kind of lawlessness that was running rampant over the last few years. And that was the point of Trump showing those mugshots yesterday. And it was valuable. It was, I thought, the most powerful visual moment that he had yesterday during this press conference from the White House. And you know what? He should do something like that on a weekly basis. Just give us an update on the people that you are arresting. So that was good Trump yesterday. And then there was not so good Trump when he goes up there and he's complaining still about not getting the Nobel Peace Prize.
Should have gotten the Nobel Prize for each war, but I don't say that. I say millions and millions of people. And don't let anyone tell you that Norway doesn't control the shots, okay? It's in Norway. Norway controls the shots. They'll say, we have nothing to do with it. It's a joke. They've lost such prestige. That's why I have such respect for Maria doing what she did. She said, I don't deserve the Nobel Prize. He does. When she got it, they said, wow, that's amazing. I thought President Trump would get it.
I mean, the guy's up there and he's complaining about not getting the Nobel Prize. And then he's talking about Maria Machado, who's the Venezuelan opposition leader who won the Nobel Prize. And Trump's like, yeah, even Maria's like, oh, Donald should have gotten the Nobel Prize. She was as shocked as anybody by the whole thing. I just can't believe it.
She's a real beauty.
It's just unbelievable. I should have gotten it, should have won it. I stopped 17 wars, 3 more yesterday. We're up to 20 wars stopped now. Can't win a Nobel Prize. What's it going to take around here for a guy to win a Nobel Prize? It's just, you can't. He just can't help himself with that stuff. And I'm like, dang it, you're making so many good points. Don't bury it with this. But that's how it goes. There are the highs and the lows. Tom's in Paola. Go ahead, Tom.
You there?
Yeah, Tom, what's going on, my man?
Hey, so, yesterday I was listening to Vince Colonnade, and during the press conference, he made comment during the time when he was going through the showing all pictures and stuff.
Hey, Tom, you cut out on us there, my man. I'm sorry. You still with us, Tom in Paola?
He's driving through Paola.
Yeah, I'm sorry there, Tom. I appreciate you listening to the Vince show, though. John?
Yeah, his point was that Vince had pointed out that at no time during Trump showing pictures were there any camera flashes, so to speak, or anybody recording that.
Ah, that's a very good pickup there, Tom. Or by Vince, either one. But yeah, they don't want to tell you who these people are. They want no part of that. They don't want to brag about that. They don't want to showcase that. They don't want to, most importantly, report on that. The reporting of who's getting arrested is not important information to many of them. And that's why Trump has to do it. So, John, good job filling in for Tom there. You could be a caller any day on the show. President Trump is in Davos, landed there just before we got on the air at 6 o'clock this morning. They were delayed because Air Force One had an electrical issue, so they had to turn around very early in the flight, go back, and then take off again to go to Davos, Switzerland for the World Economic Forum. The president is expected to obviously speak at some point this morning. When that happens, we'll bring you some of the highlights here on KCMO. I can't promise you the whole speech. He's probably going to go on for an hour and just destroy these European leaders. He's obviously got a bone to pick with them. So we'll bring you the best of content. That's what we can promise you here on KCMO. But it's been a busy 24 hours because yesterday the president did his first full press conference of the new year. And like everything else, I mean, there's ups and downs and ebbs and flows, like really anything Trump does. So I figured this morning, each hour, I would give you a good and a bad, and I will give you different stuff throughout the morning here on KCMO. But there were hysterical moments, and there were moments when you just like doing the face palm emoji. So this was so funny yesterday. It was the most Trumpian thing as he's describing cleaning up the streets of Washington, D.C. I mean, I know this feels like years ago, but it was just a few months ago when the president said, we're going to use the National Guard in Washington, D.C. We're going to clean up this city. We're going to make it a more desirable place for people to go out, go to restaurants, go to a show, go to a game, and we're going to use the National Guard. Everybody hated it. Well, I shouldn't say that. Many in D.C., because of how D.C. leans, hated it. But his point was a very simple one, and it's not rocket science. If we have more law enforcement on our American streets, it will be a safer place. This is not difficult to figure out. It's true in Kansas City, and it's true in D.C. And it's working. Crime is down. Homicides are down. Everything trending in the right direction in Washington, D.C. And here was Trump explaining it yesterday.
With your loved one, with your lover. Your lover's not going to be killed anymore, so you can act like a real lover. But you can walk right through the middle of the town, and D.C. is beautiful again, too. You notice we took all the fences down, almost all, the rest are coming down. Got the graffiti all off. National Guard's been amazing. We didn't tell them to do that. That's not their job description. But they were picking up garbage and everything. They were great.
Put this one on a plaque.
Your lover's not going to be killed anymore, so you can act like a real lover.
You can act like a real lover. It's hard to act like a real lover when you're dead. But now you can act like a real lover. And next time you see a National Guardsman, just make sure you say to that guardsman, Sir, I'm glad I can act like a real lover tonight. That's right. I'm glad. I want to act like a real lover. That's right. Yes.
Boom, boom, boom.
There you go. Only President Trump can describe the value of the National Guard being on the streets of Washington, D.C. like that. I mean,
your lover's not going to be killed anymore, so you can act like a real lover.
Oh, my gosh. You can't where's he get this stuff? You can't make this stuff up, man. You just can't. So I'm watching this yesterday, and that line just killed me. I'm like, is someone writing this stuff, or is he just doing this off the cuff, John?
McLovin.
Yeah. Holy smokes. So that was hysterical. And then there was the not so good, where he's going on about the economy and some of the turnaround he's experiencing in the economy, and that's great. I mean, I love that, right? But then he starts going wild here when he's like, we've had some good growth, but I think we should be having 20% growth in the economy. 20% growth.
And we had 5%. Nobody in this room has ever heard about 5%. I think it could be 20% if we do it right. If we don't, every time we have good numbers, they raise interest rates. You shouldn't do it. In the old days, if you had good numbers, they'd lower interest rates, or they wouldn't do anything. Here they try and kill it. They always try and kill success. Over the last 20, 25 years, that's the way. In the old days, if you had good numbers, the market would go through the roof. Today, if you have good numbers, the market goes down. But by the way, we've had the best stock market in history, the best 401ks in history, and we inherited a mess. The numbers that we inherited were way up, and now we brought them, almost all of them, way down.
Now, he's saying a lot there, obviously, that I agree with. There has been good GDP growth. I mean, what did we see last quarter? Almost 5%. He's rounding up. That's fine. But 20%, now I know that's kind of like just Trumpian, like exaggerate to the max, right? But I was looking this up historically. GDP growth rate in the U.S. has averaged 3.2% from 1947 until 2025. In the fourth quarter of 1950, during the strong post-World War II expansions, we saw 13.4%. Now, in the third quarter of 2020, we saw 34%, but that was, of course, an artificial number because of COVID and what happened that year, and also the massive amount of government spending that caused that. So that's really an artificial number. Leave COVID out of it. The most robust growth we've really seen over the last 75 to 100 years is the post-World War II expansion, 13%. 20%, I mean, I'm all about being optimistic here. But let's not shoot for a number that we can't achieve. I'll just leave it at that. Coming up, what is happening this morning in Topeka? Why is there some frustration? There's a closed-door meeting, and I'll tell you what I know about it as it relates to the Chiefs coming up next on KCMO. So there is a meeting going on 8 o'clock this morning. Republican Caucus is going to be getting together in the House and the Senate in Topeka. So it's kind of like one of those rah-rah deals, right? They meet in private, they come together, they talk about agenda items and things like that. So this will be a fairly private, a very private event, except I guess, I know about it, so I don't know how private it is. But either way, the caucus meeting is taking place at 8 o'clock this morning. So they're all getting settled in there right now in Topeka. You'll have the Senate Republicans meet privately. You'll have the House Republicans meet privately. And you do have growing concerns within rank and file about this Chiefs deal. There's more of it, as I understand, in the House than the Senate, but there is growing concern over what exactly they all just agreed to and whether or not this is a deal that is going to screw the state for years to come. That's real. I talked to multiple members of the legislature and people who are connected to the legislature yesterday, and they're starting to kind of wake up to what the heck just happened. The problem is, as one person told me yesterday, you still just have too many guys, and I don't mean like males, but just people in the legislature who are just like going along to get along and trust leadership and don't read anything for yourself and don't think for yourself. And, well, if they say it's a good deal, it must be a good deal. You just don't have, to put it bluntly, the brightest bulbs. These are people who have not looked at the 33-page Commerce Department deal that was put together. I don't know if they don't care. I don't know if they're not smart enough to read it. I don't know. I'm just saying they're not doing their job on behalf of their constituents and on behalf of the Kansas taxpayer. But now they've heard enough where they're starting to squawk. And they're starting to be like, what did you guys walk us into exactly? What were you thinking? What might be in it for you, and why were we used potentially as just pawns in this game to lure the Chiefs over here on a deal that people are still wondering whether or not mathematically it has any chance of working? So there are a lot of issues that I think are starting to bubble up on this thing. And there are other rumors. I couldn't confirm some of the other things that I was hearing, so I'm not going to share them right now on the air. But just know that there are definitely moving parts. Now, does any of this mean the deal's done? They're not going to Kansas? No, I'm not saying any of that. That's not what I'm suggesting at all. But what I am saying is that at least there's a growing percentage of people who are concerned, who are at least asking, dare I say, ask questions on behalf of the taxpayer. Someone's got to do it. Sure would be nice if it started now. I guess better late than never. But there's at least some of that going on.
So when they announced the Chiefs to Kansas and they did the whole big thing over there, that's like the toothpaste getting out of the tube, right? And now they just kind of have to clean up like we do after our kids.
Well, that's one way to say it there, Mark. I'm trying to take your toothpaste analogy and spin it in a different way. Here's how I would use your toothpaste analogy and try to refine it a little bit, all right? And I'm doing this on the fly, so work with me here. It's like your kids, and I don't know if your kids do this, but mine do. At least they're at the age where they really want to brush their own teeth, right? So you finally say, all right, fine. Go in there and brush your own teeth. I trust you. Just put the toothpaste on the toothbrush and brush your own teeth. And that's what many in the legislature did back in 2024. When they voted in June in that special session to approve a star bond offer for a professional sports team or teams, they trusted leadership. And what did leadership do? They did what my kids do. And what your kids probably don't do anymore because they're older than mine, but what mine do. They said, yeah, no problem, Dad. We're good. We'll go brush our teeth. And then you walk into the bathroom and they're squeezing the toothpaste all over the bathroom. It's on the floor, it's on the sink, it's everywhere but on the toothbrush and being used to brush their teeth. That's the toothpaste analogy. And then you walk in and you say, I trusted you. You told me you were going to do this. You were going to do it the right way. And now I've got to clean up, and we've got to clean up your mess. So hopefully I did that well on the fly, Mark, by taking your toothpaste analogy, which that's a tongue twister in and of itself. So you really put me in a bind here, Mark. But I think I made the best of it. All right, I nailed it. All right, thank you very much there, Mark. That's very nice of you.
Such a nice man.
That's the best I've got. I'm signing off. Keatsman's coming in early. I'm done. I got 2 hours to go, but Mark said I'm good, so I'm good. But that's it. So I'm glad it's happening. And as soon as I find out more about how it goes this morning, I'll let you know here on KCMO Talk Radio. Now, speaking of the Chiefs, this was on the other side of state line. Jackson County Executive Phil Lavoda and chairman of the Jackson County Sports Complex Authority on Tuesday rebuffed a proposal to withhold any money from the Chiefs after the team announced a move to Kansas. So Lavoda and Jackson County Sports Complex Authority Chairman Sean Foster responded to Manny Abarca's December 31st letter challenging county and state leaders to redirect tax money away from the team. Yeah, I appreciate when Manny Abarca comes on the show. He's well-spoken. He has conviction in his terrible ideas, but he has conviction in them. And, it makes for a good soundbite and occasionally good radio. But Manny Abarca, who's now the chairman of the Jackson County Legislature, I've rarely seen somebody in local office seek attention like this on things that just have no chance of ever happening. So Abarca called for withholding millions of dollars from the team's reimbursement request for maintenance and repairs at Arrowhead Stadium. You can't do that. And by the way, if you did that, it would be tied up in court. The Chiefs would sue. And then who's on the hook? Who's the backstop for the money? The county, Jackson County. I confirmed this last night with people. If you think we're going to show the Chiefs, we're not going to let them have the monies that we've legally agreed to give them for Arrowhead Stadium because we're mad they're going to Kansas. One, you legally can't do that. And even if you could, even if you fought this thing and somehow won, as I understand it, in talking to people who know the contracts as well as anybody, then the county's on the hook. So you can either give them the money that you do not see right now, that you're legally obligated to give them, or you can fight them in court, cost the taxpayer money by fighting in court, and then the end game is the county has to cover the bill anyway. What a bunch of geniuses. They don't think about this stuff beyond what makes them feel good. That's all they think about, what makes them feel good and what gives them headlines in local media. And the actual reality of the situation, well, who cares? Throw it out the window. It doesn't matter, John, one bit.
Yeah, I learned everything from watching black and white gangster flicks back in the day. You can pay me now, or you can pay me later. Right?
Yeah.
Show some RESPICT.
The Chiefs are getting paid. They're finishing out their lease at Truman Sports Complex. It doesn't matter how much whining gets done by Jackson County or anybody else. And, there is that still probably 0.1% chance, and I'm not saying this is likely. I'm not predicting this. I'm just saying there is a chance, a very small chance, albeit, that the whole thing does fall through. And it's not likely. I'm not saying it's going to happen. I'm just saying if you're Jackson County, you should be playing nice right now. You have no reason not to. What are you going to do? Stick it to the Chiefs and get what out of it? What are you getting out of it? You're not getting anything out of it. Ride this thing out, enjoy the relationship for the next 5-6 years, and then realize, you know what? In the end, you're going to get the last laugh. Your egos are hurt. I get it. But you get to lower your sales tax by 0.3%, most likely, unless something happens here with the Royals. And then you get to watch Kansas deal with the financial issues that are definitely going to be coming their way in the wake of this deal. It's as simple as that. Coming up on KCMO, 8:05, Jeffrey King's attorney is going to be here. Jeffrey King is the man who allegedly shot and killed Chris Wells, the father in the Northland early last week. It was 9 days ago now. They had a confrontation in this Northland neighborhood, and Matthew Merriman told the Kansas City Star yesterday that he's probably going to use the stand your ground law in his defense of Jeffrey King. Matthew Merriman is going to be here coming up at 8:05 on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM. Do not miss that conversation. It is right around the corner, right here on KCMO Talk Radio 95.7 FM, and stream us all morning long on the KCMO Talk Radio app. We just got done with Matthew Merriman and Bates Law Firm here in Kansas City. He represented Chief Saholic. He is now representing Jeffrey King in the Northland, who, of course, we still will say allegedly shot and killed 41-year-old father Chris Wells in a neighborhood dispute. And, boy, the text line is absolutely popping right now. A lot of you obviously bringing up what I brought up, which is how many bullets are too many in a stand-your-ground defense, especially when 8 came in the back. And that's just... that's going to be tough, but you know what? It may be the best they can do right now. Bill's in the Northland. Hi, Bill. You're on KCMO. Good morning.
Hi, Bill. Can you hear me? I'm sorry. Hi, this is Bill. Can you hear me?
Yes, Bill, I can. You're on the air.
So, as I said when I called in, I am a neighbor. I live on that street. My wife drives to work over that very scene every morning, and I bring my kids to swim across that very scene every Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have a little bit of context, but in order to keep things even keel, and non-accusatory, this is what I will say. There have been levels of escalation that will need to be revealed and will come out in an investigation. And I think once that information comes out, it will be very clear that this is not a stand your ground issue. This is a mental health issue. As you quoted out, this man is a veteran, and as the timeline will show, there's been a lot of things that have escalated with this man. There have been a lot of things that led to this situation. So to comment on stand your ground, that's always a defense that can be out there. But there will be things that will be revealed that will make things very difficult. And this is me keeping things very obtuse so as to not compromise the defense or the prosecution team. And that's all I wanted to say. It has been a very strenuous thing for our neighborhood, for both neighborhoods, because it's multiple neighborhoods. And there's more testimony that's probably going to come out that's going to be quite difficult. So with that, I'll kind of leave it at that and understand that there is more to it than he waves American flags in his front yard. There is more to it than a fight. There's a lot going on there.
What's the most, and I know you don't want to share too much as someone who knows the scene fairly well, Bill, but what is the underreported thing that you think is going to maybe turn this case?
In my opinion, and I'll state it simply, the level of agitation. There has been a lot of agitation in our neighborhood over the past year, if not years.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in that community for close to 5 years now. So,
and the agitation coming from King.
We will just leave it at level of agitation. I think I'll leave it up to the defense and the prosecutors to do their jobs.
Okay. All right. Fair enough. Well, Bill, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing it. And listen, I can't imagine. I'll just say this last thing to you, Bill. We all love our communities, love our neighborhoods, but the reality is when you get a neighbor who is doing some of the things that have been alleged, I mean, it throws the entire neighborhood off. And it's easy to say pick up and move, but when you've got potentially laws being broken and it feels like your own city isn't doing anything about it, I think that's another part of this story that hasn't quite been dug into enough yet. And maybe it will as the trial unfolds, because I got to imagine there's frustration with the city of Kansas City, Missouri as well in all this. Is that fair?
Oh, yes, absolutely. The neighborhood sees multiple points where things could have been done.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when you look at the letter of the law, there are certain things that just had to let slide.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Right.
Yep. All right. Bill, thank you for checking in. I appreciate it.
Hey, of course. Thank you.
Yep. Have a great day. Hang tough up there. Yeah, this story is just, listen, it's a tragedy that Mr. Wells, father of 4 young kids, lost his life at the hands of a neighbor. And we'll see whether or not stand your ground is defense enough. I mean, I don't know. Do they switch to insanity if what Bill's talking about is true and he's alleging that, mental health issues are a part of this and harassment, abuse, whatever is part of this? You wonder if insanity might work better than stand your ground. But I'll let the experts with the fancy law degrees figure that out.
And this guy worked with Chiefs of Hogs, so he knows a little bit of a crazy guy.
Yeah,
right?
Well, listen. It's part of the job. It's part of the job. Oh, you got something good for me? Is this the attorney we just had on talking about Chiefsaholic?
Yeah, back on the steps.
When was this?
Years ago, February 24.
Oh, that's it?
So
boy, that was only 2 years ago? Gosh, Chiefsaholic was only 2 years ago?
Yeah, it's crazy.
My goodness gracious. I got asked by somebody yesterday, they said, how old are you? I said 37, but going on 47 with 3 little kids and doing a morning show. And now that I feel like Chiefsaholic was 10 years ago, it was only 2 years ago, that's throwing me for a loop. So anyway, let's roll the attorney's tape from 2 years ago defending Chiefsaholic.
The government has been blitzing, and Xavier's pocket was collapsing. But today, Xavier stepped into the pressure. He took responsibility for his actions. He stood up in court, humble and repentant, and admitted what he had done.
Play that with the beginning part about the pocket collapsing. The government was, unfairly blitzing? One more time, just the start of that.
Beginning of this case, folks, the government has been blitzing, and Xavier's pocket was collapsing.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, right? Isn't that the point? You're supposed to blitz when you sense weakness from your opponent. When you think you can sack the quarterback, you bring the blitz. And the pocket was collapsing because the guy was a criminal. The guy was robbing banks with his dopey little, wolf mask on. So, yeah, thank goodness the government was blitzing. All right? I mean, the government's blitzing in Minneapolis. They were blitzing on Chiefsaholic. They're blitzing where they're supposed to blitz. I wish they would blitz a little more on the Epstein files, but, I guess that's a story for another day. I'll leave that one by the wayside. My gosh. Woo. Certain jobs I couldn't do. I'll just leave it at that. All right?